Sony's NA branch was supposed to be the bridge between the Eastern and Western markets. Okay, I don't have much to add this time around. I've pretty much made my point about not supporting PlayStation if you enjoy anime games, and how Sony is currently driving themselves off the deep end. Past tense I guess now, like what the hell is going on there? But before I get into the new news, let me make something clear. Despite my personal stance on censorship, I am not without reason. Small changes that do not remove gameplay or alter the intent of the source material, or at the very least are made solely due to the developers without any outside pressure, I can tolerate that. If I couldn't, I would not be able to play anything. The problem is the scale. See, censorship within Sony titles are nothing new, especially around the 2000s era Sony, where information on censorship was not nearly as easily accessible. Games like the Western version of Real Bout Fatal Fury, the Sony version of Police Knots by none other than Hideo Kojima, and even that one Leisure Suit Larry game, which was an edited version of an AO title by the way, they were all censored, but at least in those days, the censorship was rarely significant. Fast forward to 2018, and now we have entire games being denied entry to the PlayStation market. On some level, it's funny to see such a role reversal from Sony and the former censorship king Nintendo, because back in the day, the Mario Maker was infamous for changes to games like Mortal Kombat. And let's not forget Microsoft's transgressions, because what they did to Conker's Bad Fur Day was a travesty, and that game was on the N64. But as time went by, Nintendo had begun embracing the fact that their demographic had gotten older and more mature, mostly. And responding in kind, have also been embracing more mature titles, such as most notably the recent Senran Kagura Switch games, but even before that, games like Mad World or No More Heroes.
Downward fucking dog!
Even Japan itself has some weird censorship rules regarding their culture. I mean weird from the perspective of a Westerner, because I know our gun obsession must be bonkers when viewed by Japan. They heavily cut down on violence, blood, imagery of characters having 4 fingers, look it up, you'll never see chibi characters the same again, while generally having a rather cool leniency on sexual content. Well, generally, because both God of War and The Witcher got hit with the censorship stamp in Japan for nudity. But none of that matters now, because Sony is apparently no longer using Japanese rules to patrol Japanese games. Here we go with the new news. Buckle up, because some of this is damn near unbelievable. Dear God, where do we even begin? Well, as I hinted at, while nobody was paying attention, back in 2016, Sony moved the headquarters of PlayStation to the US, meaning that Sony Japan has for the past 2 years been taking marching orders from Sony North America.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Located in California. Kinda answers some questions but raises so many more. During this period of time, not much really happened until the swift execution of the Western release of Omega Labyrinth Z. And quick update on that, while Z is apparently 6 feet under despite the translation being complete, which is the most frustrating part of that little fiasco, Omega Labyrinth Life, the next game in the series, is currently in development for the Nintendo Switch.
Boom!
And for bonus points, the producer once again wants to bring the title to the West and expects no issues in that pursuit from Nintendo. Fingers crossed. 5 months later, after the Z controversy, all of a sudden the newest Senran Kagura title, Burst Renewal, was being censored by Sony, having to remove the intimacy mode for the PlayStation version, while the PC version remained untouched. Now I wish I had a positive update for this situation, but sadly, and this isn't even related to Sony, remember when I said people need to not misquote localization producer Tom Lipschultz for his harsh words condemning Sony? Well, he and fellow localization producer Brittany Avery have both parted ways from Xseed Games. I can't say much about Brittany Avery's departure other than I feel bad for her, as it sounds like she got genuinely canned, while Tom Lipschultz was more of a mutual departure. But this makes my warnings about Xseed Games ring even louder. Xseed Games itself does not care much about censorship, and Tom Lipschultz was a very strong advocate inside the company, to the point that he requested his name be taken out of the credits of Akiba's Beat, another Xseed Games title that was censored in regards to the ACQ witches, originally called the KKK witches, a parody of the NKK switches in Japan, which by their company policy ended up with his name being taken out of all Xseed Games titles from that point on. In a Twitter exchange, Lipschultz even tweeted that he could not guarantee Xseed would maintain an anti-censorship stance on their games since, as he put it, "That always just been me." So as I said before, if you care about 100% unedited content, watch Xseed carefully. Back on topic, after the Senran Kagura censorship, it was revealed to be the starting shot for a slew of censorship out of the PlayStation brand. In the West, there were claims that Warriors Orochi 4 had its physics removed for the PlayStation 4 version, but my findings showed that it was simply a technical problem related to the frame rate, where the physics showed when locked to 30 FPS, which is the Switch's native frame rate, while the PS4 version can reach 60 FPS, I think. And the PC version is the PC version, which means it can do whatever. Idea Factory revealed that two of their upcoming titles, Data Live Rio Reincarnation and Dragonstar Vanir, have had 2 chained CGs each for the PS4 release, while at least Data Live would have an unaltered Steam release. Necopara was also caught in the crossfire with its PS4 version being heavily censored to fit with Sony's new policy, so much so that for a while Sony was advertising the game as an E for Everyone title on their site. Sure, it was a bug, but it shows how bad things are when people thought this was real. Or, someone might have did this on purpose to draw attention to it. And as a bonus, in a less fanservice example, kinda, Oxus Games censored a CG in the horror title Deathmark for its Western release over it possibly being disturbing/offensive. Though, as it was a horror game, I can assume disturbing wasn't really the issue. So that's what's happening here. Now let's talk about Japan. Oh no! Yes, because Sonyfornia is in charge now, I'm never using that name again, clearly some changes have to be made to the Japanese side of the company. Now, before we get into all the bad stuff, the first question has to be answered. Why? Well, to put it bluntly, the console industry in Japan is falling apart and mobile gacha games are taking over. Love your fate.
Dude, you're not helping.
Not trying to help.
Honestly, from a financial standpoint, it makes sense for Sony to move to the West since most of their best worldwide titles come out of North America. But California comes with a price. Within the last month, various games made for the Japanese audience were revealed to have been encouraged to edit their games to either remove offending content or to simply cover it up with the holy light of God. And these calls for alterations are truly worldwide, with even the Chinese version of Mary Skelter 2 censoring the purification system in a post-release update patch. Now this comes to no surprise as the purification system is similar to the intimacy mode removed from Senran Kagura, but for Mary Skelter 2, haphazardly editing this mode actually negatively affected the gameplay of the title. Luckily, gamers in China quickly figured out a workaround, but it can't get any more ridiculous than that. And yet it does. The studio Light has been working on a censored port of their adult visual novel, Silverio Trinity, but newly imposed regulations have hindered their progress with the port. In a livestream Studio Light did, an excerpt was translated by Gematsu. They talk about how Sony is in the process of disallowing ports of adult games worldwide, and being told to reply to Sony's questions in regards to their title in English rather than their native language. It's so frustrating that the studio rep even commented that they have no idea of the time frame of getting approved if they even get approved in the first place, and that if they were able to release on Steam, by the way, I have read somewhere that they have an exclusivity agreement with Sony, so that's out of the question, but if they were able to release on Steam, it would be done within a week. Now, this information needs to be taken with a grain of salt, as since it comes from a Japanese livestream, I have seen several hotter takes such as all visual novels are being banned from PlayStation now, Japanese devs being forced to adhere to the ESRB in North America, and most confusingly, devs not being able to announce if their games are being censored. But I haven't seen any concrete evidence of any of that. Not all visual novels are 18+, though a considerable amount of them are. I don't think the ESRB has the time, money, or desire to tackle Japanese games, though the Western gatekeepers may have the ESRB in mind when they make the final decision. And I think companies are being silent on their games because it inherently makes the PlayStation ports less desirable, which translates to less sales. If anyone has proof of these claims, please let them be known, but it doesn't help anyone for this livestream to be subjected to games of telephone till the facts are no longer facts. In closing, this is ridiculous. It's gotten to the point that even an indie dev like the creators of Project Sense have opted to speak out about their concerns with PlayStation, and who knows how many developers, big or small, feel the same. If there is any solace in this though, it is that the PC market is growing, and a move like this will only push those not contractually obligated to Sony onto the platform. But for those hard championing Steam,
let's not get crazy.
Steam has its problems as well, especially with rumors of rogue employees targeting adult and fan service games on Steam. Despite the platform's overall stance, it's not an absolute utopia over on PC, and from what I've heard, while it is growing, it's still not really there in Japan just yet. But with that said, let's end this video with a look at what Nintendo is cooking up while Sony is simmering down. You know what? No. As I sit here talking to a microphone in a cold winter room, I've got this one unopened game on my desk. R Tonoliko Koga for the PS3. Right here. It's ironically the least censored title in the series compared to its predecessors on the PS2. So even though I'm probably not going to buy another PlayStation game or system in the future, at least not firsthand, I do want to end this video in a way that celebrates the PlayStation of old. A PlayStation that wasn't even that long ago. So I'll see you guys next time.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
I really hope I don't have to do a part 4.